Please take your seats. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. It's a great honor for us to invite you in this magnificent building, which is the former Royal Palace. So we hope we will have a very good day today. For the National Bank of Romania, it's a great honor and a great pleasure to organize this event. So we are starting with the introductory speeches, and those I invite Vice Governor Cosmin Marinescu to deliver the opening speech. Professor Marinescu is a former presidential advisor and currently is coordinating also the financial education programs for the Central Bank of Romania. Vice Governor.
Thank you. Bună dimineața și bine ați venit. Good morning and welcome. Mr. President of the Senate, Madam Vice President of the Chamber of Deputies, Mr. Governor, honorable ministers, distinguished guests, members of the OECD International Network on Financial Education, Madam Chair of Committee, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It is a privilege to address a warm welcome to this distinguished gathering under the auspices of the OECD International Network on Financial Education here in Romania at the Royal Palace in Bucharest. I have the great honor to salute the presence of our special guest today, the President of Romania, through his message, along with the highest representatives of the Romanian state authorities. Their esteemed participation stands as a powerful statement to the strategic importance Romania attaches both to financial education and valued partnership with the OECD. This special event takes place just before May 9th, the Day of Europe, when we celebrate Romania's European integration, the most important country project for Romania in our recent democratic history. And we are hoping to also celebrate the OECD accession this year, consolidating our path to economic development. Being here today at the Royal Palace, a few days before the Day of Royalty, is also very special. Many thanks for the Ministry of Culture and the National Museum of Art of Romania for their ongoing support. We meet at a moment of global uncertainty in the context of the war in the Middle East. The geopolitical tensions and persistent security risks generate volatility across global economy. And this is happening after we have already been under severe distress caused by overlapping crises in the last years. These times reinforce an essential truth. The economic resilience is built by sound institutions, coherent policies, and very important, informed citizens. In this way, financial literacy is more than an educational issue. It becomes a pillar of economic stability. Esteemed guests, financial education has emerged as a key policy pillar. It enhances the effectiveness of policies and strengthens trust in the institutions. Romania has embraced this vision through our national strategy for financial education aligned with the OECD principles. We, the National Bank of Romania, and I'm certain I speak also on behalf of our colleagues from the Financial Supervisory Authority and the Romanian Banking Association, will remain fully committed to advancing this agenda both domestically and internationally. Financial education has a direct impact on the quality of public policies. When governments prove responsibility through sound public finances, they send a coherent message in favor of financial sustainability. Otherwise, we are faced with the trap of economic populism, and public policies resort only to short-term measures based mainly on budget deficits and public debt. For example, global government debt has reached a historical record, 100% of global GDP, raising concerns about long-term fiscal sustainability. In such an environment, the principle of economic responsibility must be the one to guide public policies in achieving the much-needed financial sustainability. That is why financial education is essential in promoting sound economic policies. Ladies and gentlemen, Romania's accession to the OECD is a defining strategic objective. It reflects not only ambition, but also years of reforms and institutional changes. I remember the 2016 OECD public governance scan of Romania 10 years ago. Back then, we were laying the grounds for what has now become the final stage of accession. What we are witnessing now is not a sudden achievement, but a long-term national effort based on European values and international best practices. Romania's progress must be understood within its broader strategic anchors. Our European Union and NATO membership has fundamentally shaped our economic and institutional development. As Romania's integration in the EU has generated significant progress, we are convinced that the OECD accession can generate the momentum for the next stage of our country's development. It will further strengthen governance, improve policy design, and enhance our capacity to navigate an increasingly complex environment. The OECD lessons and expertise are essentially relevant, and financial education will be a key driver. Looking ahead, we must remain guided by the lessons of the past and the realities of the present. Financial education, institutional strength, and international cooperation are not separate priorities, but interconnected pillars of sustainable development. If we succeed in accomplishing all of them, we will not only build stronger economies, but also resilient and informed societies. And ultimately, this is the most valuable investment we can make for our future. Thank you, and I wish you all an inspiring conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Romania's financial education strategy enjoys the patronage of the Romanian presidency. So I invite you to listen and to see also the welcoming video message of the President of Romania, His Excellency Nicu Șordan. The message is in Romanian. For the English translation, please use your headphones and press number 2.
Sunt onorat să mă adresez dumneavoastră în deschiderea acestei reuniuni. În primul rând, pentru delegații străini care sunt la București, bine ați venit în România și veți fi oricând bineveniți la noi. Vreau să felicit organizatorii, Banca Națională a României și OECD pentru organizarea acestei reuniuni. După cum știți, România este în curs de a-și finaliza procesul de aderare la OECD și suntem bucuroși să fim cât mai curând în cadrul acestei entități alături de dumneavoastră. Ceea ce privește educația financiară, sunt câteva motive pentru care ea este extrem de importantă pentru societățile noastre. Ea este importantă la nivel individual, pentru ca oamenii să știe să folosească instrumente financiare și să aibă o perspectivă corectă asupra economiei și a ce pot să facă. În al doilea rând, foarte important, oameni educați financiar, o societate educată financiar va direcționa politicienii către politici sănătoase economice și asta aduce prosperitate. Și nu în ultimul rând, noi trăim o luptă între societățile noastre și dezinformare, dezbinare, chiar atacuri la democrația însăși, și cetățenii educați financiar sunt cetățeni care se plasează bine în această dezbatere și reușesc să facă societățile lor să ia propriile decizii care să le avantajeze.
The importance of financial education is recognized by all the institutions of the Romanian state, and we are happy to be able to have welcoming speeches from the most important ones today. So we begin, and I invite with honor the President of the Senate, Mr. Mircea Brudan, for his speech.
Good morning, Mr. Governor, Vice President of the Chamber of Deputies, Ministers, Vice Governors, Excellencies. It's an honor for me to be here representing the Senate of Romania, and I believe it's a good opportunity for all of us to remind ourselves that Romania's accession to the OECD is non-negotiable and that we should not deviate from the path. The OECD is a compass of standards and discipline in the economy. It is the best thing that can happen to us now in this difficult economic period. And even if we cross a complicated political period, the accession to the OECD represents a cross-party country objective. When we say OECD, we refer to the organization of the world's largest economies. It is often described as an economic NATO. Since 2022, when the OECD Council decided to open accession negotiations with our country, and up to the present, we have made important and sustained progress. Until we received the invitation to join, we only have one formal opinion left to obtain out of a total of 25. All these formal opinions that we have obtained mean that our country is successfully incorporating OECD legal instruments at the level of legislation, policies, and internal practices. And these are not few. They amount to over 270 legal acts and regulatory provisions. The role of the Romanian Parliament in the OECD accession process is a key one, precisely from the perspective of the legislative harmonization and the adoption of the necessary legal amendments to align with the OECD standards. At the same time, Parliament plays the role of promoter of the OECD accession objective at the level of public opinion in Romania, including to the establishment of the Special Joint Committee for OECD accession. For investors, a legislative framework harmonized with OECD standards transparent and predictable provides the confidence they need when considering development plans. And this brings not only capital, but also technology and innovation, essential elements for sustainable economic growth. I would like to consider the following positive scenario. Romania will be able to participate in the 300 OECD committees and commissions. Romanian experts will be able to engage in dialogue and exchange ideas with those from member countries. Active involvement in the organizations, committees, and working groups provides access to strategic dialogue, increases the country's international visibility, and strengthens its role as a relevant actor in shaping international economic and social policies. Therefore, accession to the OECD will not only mean joining the club of countries that account for 70% of global production and trade and 90% of global foreign direct investment. It means joining a group of countries that share the same values and principles, countries that believe in democracy, that have open and transparent market economies, and that manage their economies based on the same development principles. In practice, OECD membership functions as a guarantee certificate for financial markets. It is a concrete instrument for modernizing the country, increasing competitiveness, and improving citizens' living standards. Implementing OECD recommendations leads to a more modern state, capable of responding to the real needs of society. Romania's accession to the OECD is not merely a technical foreign policy objective. It is a commitment to the future. We are here to demonstrate that Romania not only adopts international standards, but becomes an active partner in shaping global solutions for a resilient and transparent economy. This path is, in essence, our promise for a more prosperous Romania, where predictability and good governance become the fundamental pillars of long-term development. I will conclude by reiterating our total commitment to the values of this club of best practices and invite you to see Romania not only as a future member, but as a trusted partner in consolidating global prosperity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The message from the Chamber of Deputies will be delivered by Mrs. Natalia Intertero, the Vice President of the Chamber of Deputies. Mrs. Natalia Intertero is a former Ministry of Culture, and we have to emphasize and to recognize that financial education is in the end an important educational and cultural tool. The message is in Romanian, so please use again your headphones, number 2, English.
Excelențele voastre, stimate gazde, distinși invitați, sunt onorată să particip la acest eveniment deosebit de important, un moment definitoriu pentru România și anume parcursul către aderarea la Organizația pentru Cooperare și Dezvoltare Economică. Un obiectiv strategic care reflectă maturizarea noastră economică și instituțională. Parlamentul României și-a demonstrat angajamentul politic transpartinic față de aderarea la OCDE în 2026 prin reformele adoptate precum RUTI, Registrul Unic al Transparenței Intereselor, Convenția Antimită și pensiile private. În calitate de vicepreședinte al Camerei Deputaților, vă asigur că Parlamentul României rămâne implicat în etapele următoare pentru finalizarea aderării, care presupune ratificarea unui nou acord de privilegii și imunități OCDE, România, și ratificarea acordului de aderare, care va putea demara după finalizarea evaluărilor de către cele 25 de comitete OCDE și după adoptarea de către Consiliul OCDE, cu unanimitate, a deciziei de invitare a României de aderare la Convenția OCDE. Suntem conștienți că vor exista obligații care decurg din statutul de membru și, prin urmare, vom fi pregătiți să contribuim la realizarea priorităților OCDE, prin adoptarea viitoarei legislații în conformitate cu standardele și principiile OCDE. Dar acest demers nu trebuie privit doar ca un obiectiv de politică externă. Este o transformare profundă a modului în care construim politici publice și a modului în care statul se raportează la fiecare cetățean. Pentru mine personal, succesul aderării se măsoară foarte simplu, în bunăstarea de zi cu zi a fiecărei familii din România. Este foarte important să nu lăsăm pe nimeni în urmă. Într-o lume tot mai digitalizată, în care fraudele și dezinformarea sunt la un click distanță, alfabetizarea financiară este o condiție de bază pentru siguranță, autonomie și incluziune. De asemenea, este vitală capacitatea oamenilor de a înțelege riscurile și de a lua decizii corecte în ceea ce privește resursele financiare de care dispun. Aderarea la OCDE va aduce beneficii importante pentru mediul de afaceri, însă acestea trebuie translatate în rândul cetățenilor obișnuiți printr-o mai bună educație financiară, care să înceapă cât mai timpuriu. Aceasta este condiția pe termen lung a dezvoltării noastre economice. În același timp, nu putem vorbi de progres fără o incluziune. România are încă decalaje importante, mai ales în mediul rural și în rândul grupurilor vulnerabile, în ceea ce privește accesul la servicii financiare. Doamnelor și domnilor, cred că depinde de fiecare, de noi toți, cei de aici, să ducem România mai departe, nu doar ca membru OCDE, ci ca societate care își asumă aceste valori atât de importante. Și cheia este să investim în educația oamenilor pentru a asigura prosperitatea generațiilor viitoare. De la vârste fragede până la vârste de seniorat, este extrem de importantă protecția consumatorilor în fața fraudelor financiare. Tocmai de aceea, încă din anul 2021, când eram președinte al Comisiei de Învățământ la Camera Deputaților, am introdus în legea învățământului competențele financiare și competențele antreprenoriale, creând astfel posibilitatea organizării de materii opționale, precum educația financiară, educația antreprenorială, pe lângă educația juridică, în învățământul preuniversitar. Ulterior, acest lucru a fost preluat în noua lege a învățământului preuniversitar, dezbătută și adoptată de Parlamentul României 2 ani mai târziu. În tot acest timp am făcut eforturi comune, alături de colegi parlamentari, de reprezentanții Guvernului, pentru a încuraja cât mai multe cadre didactice să promoveze aceste materii opționale prin lecții atractive pentru copii și este foarte important ca aceste eforturi să fie continuate. Standardele promovate la nivelul OCDE pun un accent puternic pe protecția activă a cetățeanului. Însă, nicio reglementare, oricât de sofisticată ar fi, nu poate substitui un consumator informat. Într-o economie din ce în ce mai digitalizată, alfabetizarea financiară devine o componentă a securității naționale economice. Capacitatea cetățenilor de a recunoaște riscurile și de a evita fraudele contribuie direct la stabilitatea sistemului financiar. Securitatea financiară înseamnă, înainte de toate, protecție. Înseamnă că niciun român să nu mai cadă victimă a contractelor cu clauze ascunse sau a dobânzilor care devin poveri pe viață. Educația este cel mai bun scut împotriva abuzului. Vă mulțumesc!
Without government involvement, the financial education process is very difficult to carry out. And the involvement of the government led by Ilie Bolojan, the Prime Minister Ilie Bolojan, was important and it still is important. So I'm happy to invite Mr. Mihai Giurca, the Chief of Staff of the Prime Minister, to deliver the message of the Prime Minister Ilie Bolojan.
Good morning, everyone. Mr. President, Deputy President of the Chamber, distinguished colleagues of the Parliament and the government, Governor, Deputy Governor. First of all, it's an honor for me to be here and to address this esteemed audience. And it is more an honor because it is a moment where Romania has confirmed that it can live up and commit to its international engagements. And one good example is the fact that we've succeeded in completing 24 out of 25 committees for the accession process to the OECD. And I would like to thank and commend Luca Niculescu's job and steering leadership to process to these committees, but also thank the involved political actors and parties for their whole support. This is an all-out effort. I would also like to emphasize that Romania has also committed and delivered on its international commitments by going and respecting the budgetary deficit targets that we've set. And this is an effort led by the government, and it's an effort for which I want to thank Minister Nazare, that has contributed, supported, and implemented the vision and the strategy of the government. And we have responded to international challenges by acting responsibly, remaining without hesitation anchored in the values of the European Union and the transatlantic partnership. Ladies and gentlemen, I shall not speak today about financial education as a school subject. I shall speak about it as the most underestimated public policy in Romania. The theme of the conference is security, independence, inclusion, and we speak of citizens. I would like, however, to take the liberty of adding an observation. In Romania, financial education is lacking not only among citizens, it's lacking equally in many of the institutions that govern them. We have local councils that spend more money than they can have and fail to collect half of what they should have. We have ministries, agencies, and central institutions with oversized personnel structures, with expenditures that lack any real justification, and with an attitude towards public money that no private household would ever permit itself. This is the reality that ultimately produces budgetary deficits. And this is the reality that ultimately fuels extremism. This is the reality that fuels a significant part of the social tensions today. And let me say it openly, this is the reality that is the root of the political crisis Romania is going on this week. When a country lacks financial responsibility for balance at the level of the citizen, but also at the level of a mayor, a public manager, a minister, every reform becomes disproportionately painful. Every adjustment becomes politically costly. And accountability ends up being disputed rather than assumed. The National Strategy for Financial Education 24-30 exists and is a solid document. The real question, however, is not about if it's up to date or comprehensive. The real question is whether we are implementing it. And this is, before anything else, the responsibility of the government and people that have the responsibility of using public funding. Implementation begins with simple common sense things. Before sophisticated instruments, the responsible public actor, be it the minister, the mayor, the public manager, must contribute through action and through attitude to improve financial education. Because responsible conduct changes behavior. It changes mindsets. And when it begins at the level of the political leadership, people and institutions will follow. The Prime Minister, myself, and our colleagues have the determination to continue the hard work of restoring balance and, more importantly, rebuilding trust. Let me give you concrete examples. Minimum financial education tells us, for instance, that listing minority stakes of public companies on the stock exchange would do nothing other than offer Romanian citizens the real possibility of applying a very solid financial lesson in investing their own money. Investing in their own state-owned companies, it would at the same time be concrete proof of those in the position of public responsibility that they understand elementary financial principles and education. I want to thank OECD for the support given in drafting the strategy. Your standards helps us think more clearly. Your good practices helps us act more effectively. And today's meeting reminds us that the stake of financial literacy in society and of financial literacy institutions is not merely a Romanian one. It is the great stake of contemporary democracies. Thank you all for your attention. I wish you a good day.
Among the institutions involved in financial education, one of the most important one is the Ministry of Finance. Through all his public intervention, the Minister Alexandru Nazario implicitly provides financial education lessons, so I invite him for a speech today.
Mr. President of the Senate, Vice President of the Chamber of Deputies, Mr. Governor, Vice Governors, Ministers, Your Excellencies, it's indeed a privilege to address you today in a very important and critical moment for Romania for many reasons. 2026 is the OECD year for Romania. It is an extremely important year, a huge chance, a huge window of opportunity to exceed into OECD. And there is a particular aspect of this accession that I want to stress most, is the intersection between fiscal consolidation and investment. Why? In January this year, we presented the economic survey and we were debating the economic survey in Paris. 2/3 of the questions for the economic survey for all the delegates were about our fiscal consolidation. It's hard to present an economic survey with a deficit of 9.3 going down to question mark, because they didn't know exactly what is the end result for 2025. So most of the questions were about the consolidation. And we were able to respond those questions in January because we did overperform in cash deficit and we had the data. And it was an important overperformance from the 8.4 cash deficit target to 7.6. So we had the data, we presented the data, and the result was that the adjustment in the cash deficit was significant. Then the adjustment for ESA deficit presented in April is again even more significant, even though we have the biggest deficit in the European Union, but we also have the biggest adjustment that shows a very big commitment of this government led by Ilie Bolojan for this particular topic. And also, we have met the primary expenses target, because that was another thing that was questioned. And there were many people along the way in these 10 months, ever since this government took the mandate, that were questioning this, that were questioning the consolidation, questioning the measures, questioning the type of the measures, questioning the speed, questioning the consistency of the entire program. Looking back now, it's clear we did the right thing and Romania is going in the right direction. And probably to have the economic survey approved so fast would have been much more difficult without having this data, which shows seriousness, which shows commitment, which shows that Romania understands the lesson and wants to go forward. As the Prime Minister responded to this during the motion debates in the Parliament, we have only one way going forward. There is no other way. Romania is committed to this, wants to join the OECD because this will bring investment in Romania. Investment funds will have now mandates after we get into the OECD to invest more. And this is not just trying to get hope. It's very pragmatic. Yesterday I met in the Ministry of Finance an infrastructure fund, huge fund, first time in Romania, first time willing to establish something in Romania, first time willing to invest. Tell us, what's your pipeline? How many projects do you have? We're willing to invest in Romania. And we're not the only ones. The appetite for investment is far, far higher than in the past. This is what OECD brings to Romania, but it also brings rigor. So what I want to stress here is that we cannot aim high. We cannot aim to attract investment. We cannot aim to have more FDI if we don't have the rigor, if we don't respect the consolidation, if we don't have fiscal discipline, but not in the sense of an accident or of a, let's say, limited timeline for 6 months, for 9 months. No, Romania's growth depends on continuous rigor and fiscal discipline. And this, I think, cannot be changed because we need to get into the euro, because if we want to get into the euro, we need to get out of the excessive deficit procedure, and the only way to aim of getting out of the excessive deficit procedure is keeping the path, not only in 2026, which, by the way, the first evaluations of the first quarter look good. That means we are on the right track to meet the targets for 2026, but also in 2027. So this is not stopping here. The consolidation did not stop in 2026. It will continue, and it must continue if we aim high and if we want to have higher growth and if we want to see the engines of the economy restarted again. This is just a few considerations regarding where Romania stands now. I think the topics that we're addressing today here: financial literacy, because that's a very important topic, has been treated as a soft subject, sitting somewhere between consumer protection and civic education. That treatment is not longer adequate, as the financial environment has changed in ways that touch every household. Inflation is now present in economic life in different forms and intensities. Geopolitical tensions that have added pressure to energy and food prices are important. Digital finance has increased the speed of every transaction and with it the speed of every fraud. Artificial intelligence has lowered the cost of deception in ways that would have been very difficult to imagine years ago. In this environment, the distance between what citizens are expected to understand and what many have been prepared to understand has become today a real vulnerability. It is not longer only a matter of individual welfare. It's also a matter of financial stability, social cohesion, and national resilience. That's why the topic of today's symposium, security, independence, and inclusion, captures very clearly what financial literacy is ultimately about. First of all, security. People who cannot recognize a scam or cannot understand the terms of a contract they are asked to sign quickly on a screen are not truly protected nowadays in the market. Independence, because long-term financial security depends on decisions made early and often under pressure, how people save, how people borrow, how they prepare for retirement, how they protect themselves against unexpected illness or unemployment. A pension system, however well designed, cannot replace the need for citizens to understand basic financial choices, how savings grow, why diversification matters, and why liquidity can become essential in difficult moments. We are entering in a period in which economic demographies will test many assumptions behind our welfare systems. In that context, financial literacy is only one of the practical instruments through which citizens can preserve a measure of autonomy in an uncertain world. Inclusion is equally important. In Romania, as in many other countries, there are still communities, especially in rural and remote areas, for whom the formal financial system remains difficult to access, difficult to understand, or simply distant from daily life. The third panel of this symposium addressed precisely this issue, so I'm grateful for the colleagues and institutions represented here today for bringing experience from very different national contexts, but with one shared premise of financial systems that leave too many people behind, a financial system that leaves too many people behind, in the long run, leads to weaker financial system. Allow me to say a few words about public authorities and thank the National Bank of Romania, the Supervision Authority, and the Banking Association for organizing this event this particular time, in this particular moment, when it's so much needed. Thank you very much.
I have the pleasure to invite to take the floor Mrs. Luminița Odobescu, advisor of the Prime Minister of Romania. Mrs. Odobescu is a career diplomat, former Minister of Foreign Affairs, former presidential advisor.
Bună ziua! President of the Senate, Vice President of the Chamber of Deputies, Minister, Chief of Chancellery, distinguished members of the Romanian Parliament, of the Romanian government, dear Governor, Vice Governors, distinguished participants, first of all, welcome to Bucharest. I would like to express our strong appreciation for the organization by the National Bank of Romania of this event on such important subject, but also to thank for the support of the OECD International Network on Financial Education. In today's increasingly complex and uncertain global environment, the OECD provides not only standards, but also a form of policy orientation, a framework that helps governments, institutions navigate uncertainty, anticipate risk, and design more resilient systems. This is particularly relevant in the field of financial education, where rapid and technological changes continuously reshape the way individuals, us, interact with financial systems. From a government perspective, in addition to what Minister Nazare said, my colleague Mihai Jurka underlined on political responsibility, on challenges, difficulties we face, I think our common objective, our common aim is to advance financial education for the reason mentioned here, for ensuring security, financial security, economic security, but even security in a broader sense, but also independence and inclusion for all our citizens. Financial security begins with equipping individuals with the knowledge and tools to manage their resources effectively, building resilience and navigate economic uncertainty. In shaping our national policy, we aim to strengthen financial education frameworks, ensuring that our citizens are better prepared to manage everyday financial decisions and remain resilient to unexpected shocks. Inflation was mentioned, energy prices, particularly in today's uncertain geopolitical and economic context. At the same time, financial independence remains essential for long-term prosperity, as it supports individual autonomy, reduces vulnerabilities, and contributes to sustainable economic development. As regards inclusion, our objective in designing financial education strategy is to ensure that all segments of our population, especially the most vulnerable from the countryside, but not only, can access and confidently use appropriate financial products and services. And the word confidently is very essential, because we have to be confident in our financial system, in our financial institutions. The development and implementation of financial education policy and programs involve key institutions like Ministry of Education, Ministry of Finance, the National Bank of Romania, Financial Supervisory Authority, each exercising specific responsibilities in promoting financial literacy among citizens. Furthermore, we also have to involve other relevant actors, civil societies, businesses, and also other important personalities. And I will use the example of Georgia Hagi, who trained his football team on financial education. So we have to use these personalities to educate, including on financial education. Of course, from a policy perspective, this approach is complemented by the need for sustained investments in financial education and targeted programs that address both traditional financial skills and emerging competencies related to digitalization, use of artificial intelligence, including, as I said, the risk arising from increasingly complex financial products and services. In a broader context, engagement with OECD instruments plays an essential role. Romania expressed interest in participating in OECD program for international student assessment, PISA 2029 exercise, focus on financial education, the larger international comparative education programs. Without going into further details, I would like to highlight the importance of this OECD initiative, which enables countries to assess the strengths and weaknesses of their education systems, refine policy priorities, and set ambitious goals for improvement. Beyond its analytical work, the OECD also supports the implementation of national financial education strategies by providing technical assistance, educational resources, and guidance for teacher training. A concrete example is Romania's National Strategy for Financial Education 2024-2030, developed with the support of the organization. Within the framework of Romania's strong cooperation with the OECD in the accession process, but also beyond, we make efforts to design, implement, evaluate policy in order to align our strategy with the framework and tools developed by the OECD. And financial education is an important area in this regard. Together with the policy makers, the stakeholders, it is important for all of us to continue to advance in a coordinated, data-driven approach to financial education, one that supports a stronger economy, a more resilient society, and better outcomes for our citizens. Before concluding, let me address a word of appreciation for the hard work of all our colleagues from all the Romanian institutions. And this is very important because it was a team, and it is a teamwork in our process of accession to the OECD. And many thanks, of course, to Luca, but not only, because this is really a Romania team effort, and it should be used as an example on what Romania can do if our resources are used for an important country objective. And in the end, I wish you all a productive and engaging discussion, and I'm confident that today's exchanges will contribute to advancing our shared effort in strengthening financial education. Thank you.
One of the important institutions involved in the financial education strategy alongside the central bank is, of course, the Financial Supervisory Authority. I invite its president, Alexandru Petrescu, to take the floor. I have to emphasize that the authority has very well implemented educational programs.
Lovely. Good morning. Thank you very much for the introduction. Dear President of the Senate, Vice President of the Chamber of Deputies of Romania, dear Governor, dear First Deputy Governor, dear Governor Marinescu, fantastic organization, by the way, distinguished guests and friends. I'm supposed to have streamlined my speech as advised by Cosmin, but I have a lot of memories when I talk about OECD. And, you know, the Scottish are having a saying, the overnight success took 20 years. And that brings me back. In 2017, as a member of the parliament, I was walking into Chateau de la Mouette on number 2 Rue André Pascal in 16th arrondissement in Paris for the first time, working with people like Angel Gurria back then, General Secretary until 2021, with Andreas Schall, if you remember, he was in charge of digitalization. I believe now he's the General Director for Global Cooperation and International Relations. And now, of course, extremely privileged to working with people like General Secretary Matthias Coman, friends of Romania like Carmine Dinoia. I feel I should mention his effort and contribution, the General Director for Financial and Enterprise Affairs, his deputy, Antonio Gomez, a true friend of Romania, and people that along the team Romania, I'm talking about financial services, and here I don't want to miss mentioning Leo Badea, who's been a great supporter of this effort across financial services, banking and non-banking, Cosmin Marinescu, everybody. It's been very well assembled, of course, with the general guidance and kindness of Luca Niculescu, who's been always bringing that diplomatic touch to everything we've been pushing. So now we are in the position where we are one committee left, I believe the trading committee, which we know is not the easiest one nowadays, but I feel fully confident that we'll surpass this final challenge, and hopefully, if things are having a good ending, I'll have the privilege to have maybe a congratulatory speech when we'll become a fully fledged member. On behalf of the Financial Supervisory Authority of Romania, I'd like to express my sincere appreciation to the OECD and to the OECD International Network on Financial Education for their continued leadership in shaping the global financial educational agenda. We are meeting at a time when financial literacy is no longer a niche topic, it's becoming a global priority. Across the world, the financial systems are evolving rapidly. Digitalization has expanded access to financial services, new investment opportunities are emerging, and individuals are increasingly responsible for their own financial well-being. At the same time, risks are becoming more complex, from sophisticated fraud and misinformation to market volatility and rising household financial pressures. This global context has led to a clear shift in how financial education is perceived. It is no longer simply about knowledge. It is about behavior. It is about resilience, and ultimately, it is about trust. Countries across the globe are moving from isolated initiatives to comprehensive national strategies, integrating financial education into schools and universities, workplaces, and digital environments, while also focusing on vulnerable groups and long-term financial security. Romania is part of this transformation. In recent years, we have significantly strengthened our national approach to financial education. Through coordinated efforts between public authorities, the financial industry and educational institutions are building more structured and impactful frameworks. At the Financial Supervisory Authority, financial education is a strategic priority. We are actively promoting initiatives and supporting informed decision-making, enhance consumer protection, and contribute to the development of a more inclusive and resilient financial system. We're also deeply committed to international cooperation. The exchanges of best practices, data, and policy approaches facilitated by platforms such as OECD and INFE is essential for us. Financial challenges do not stop at national borders, and neither should our solutions. But beyond policies and strategies, there is a simple reality we must not lose sight of financial literacy. This is first and foremost about people. It is about giving individuals the confidence to make informed decisions. It is about helping families plan for the future. And it is about enabling societies to grow in a sustainable and balanced manner. Let me conclude with a simple thought. In an increasingly complex financial world, education is the bridge between access and empowerment. And building that bridge together is our shared responsibility. At the end of my speech, I would probably quote a quote. It happened that it stuck in my mind after listening one of the governor speeches at the National Bank of Romania, who was quoting Iorga, if I'm not mistaken, who said, education is not a destination, it's an horizon. So I'll leave that for reflection. I'm honored to be here and honored and privileged by the partnership with the National Bank of Romania and the Romanian Banking Association. Thank you.
No education process can take place without the involvement of the Ministry of Education. So I invite Mr. Sorin Ion, Secretary of State, to take the floor. Mr. Sorin Ion is coordinating the financial education strategy on behalf of the Ministry. His speech is in Romanian, so please use your headphones again.
No, we'll be in English, thank you.
It will be in English, sorry.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, it is both an honor and a privilege for me to address you today on behalf of Minister of Education and Research of Romania on a topic of increasing importance in our rapidly evolving world, financial education. In 21st century, financial literacy is no longer a luxury, but a necessity. As individuals are faced with increasingly complex financial decisions, from managing personal budgets to understanding investments and navigation digital banking system, the ability to make informed financial choices has become a fundamental life skills for responsible citizenship and individual and societal well-being. In Romania, we recognize that education must evolve to meet the realities of the contemporary world. Beyond traditional academic knowledge, our students must acquire practical competencies that will enable them to navigate everyday financial decisions with confidence and responsibility. Over the past years, Romania has taken important steps toward integrating financial education into the national curriculum through specific contents, curricular aids and methodological guides, teaching methods and resources. We encourage the use of AI and digital tools in the learning process, as well as gamification methods that attract children and young people. Through partnership with financial institutions, non-governmental organizations and international bodies, we have developed programs aimed at increasing financial awareness among students at all levels of education. However, our efforts do not stop here. We coordinate the National Strategy for Financial Education 2024-2030, through which we are committed to expand these initiatives, improving teacher training, and ensuring that financial education becomes accessible, relevant, and engaging for all learners. In doing so, we aim not only to educate, but to empower. The strategy targets several key groups, including children and students, but also young people, adults, and entrepreneurs. It promotes a coordinated, long-term approach involving public institutions, educational system, and private stakeholders. Among its main objectives are improving budgeting, savings, and investment skills, increasing awareness of financial risks, reducing over-indebtedness, and fostering informed consumers of financial services. Key measures include integrated financial education into schools and university curricula, training teachers, developing modern educational resources, and organizing public awareness campaign. The implementation of the strategy involves cooperation between major national institutions, such as the Ministry of Finance, the National Bank of Romania, the Romanian Association of Banks, the Financial Supervisory Authority, and the National Authority for Consumers Protection, alongside private and non-governmental partners. We must acknowledge that education is a shared responsibility. Government, educators, families, and the private sector must work together to create a supportive ecosystem that encourages informed and responsible financial behavior. In conclusion, investing in financial education means investing in the future of our society. The Ministry of Education and Research commits to building a generation that is not only knowledgeable, but also resilient, responsible, and prepared to face the challenge of tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's time now for our guests. So I invite Yasushi Masaki, the Deputy Secretary General of OECD, to take the floor.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to address you today on the occasion of the OECD INFE Romania Symposium on Financial Literacy. On behalf of the OECD, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to colleagues from the National Bank of Romania, the Financial Supervisory Authority of Romania, and the Romanian Association of Banks for hosting today's symposium. I also like to congratulate Romania on its strong commitment to financial literacy, reflected in two important milestones: the implementation of the National Strategy for Financial Education 2024 to 2030, and the integration of financial education into the school's curriculum. We are delighted to see the significant developments that Romania has made in strengthening its financial education policies. And the OECD is proud to have supported these efforts since 2018 through the technical assistance projects on financial education and the constituency program of the Ministry of Finance of the Netherlands. Let me now share some reflections on the themes of today's symposium, focusing on the role of financial literacy in supporting financial security, independence, and inclusion. The OECD's Consumer Finance Risk Monitor 2026, published earlier this year, provides detailed analysis of the trends and the risks impacting financial consumers in 60 jurisdictions around the world, including Romania. It shows that many consumers have faced growing challenges. These include the increased incidence of financial scams and frauds, high levels of household debt, and financial market volatility, all in the context of rising inflation and interest rates. At the same time, many consumers still lack the knowledge, skills, and confidence to face these challenges effectively. The OECD INFE 2023 International Survey of Adult Financial Literacy, covering 39 participating economies, shows that financial literacy levels remain insufficient. Let me highlight three findings that illustrate this. First, 81% of adults hold financial products, but only 37 reached the minimum target score for financial literacy. Second, 54% of adults hold non-mandatory saving, investment, or retirement products, but only 46% understand key concepts such as compound interest. Third, 15% of adults reported having been victim of at least one type of financial scam or fraud. And among them, only 1/3 reached the minimum target score. Given these challenges, financial education is central to empowering consumers to preserve their financial security over the long term alongside strong financial consumer protection and enforcement. Implementing well-designed national strategies developed in line with the OECD recommendations on financial literacy can help ensure that financial education can address emerging changes. It's equally important that these strategies are coordinated and built on solid evidence, so that they remain relevant and up-to-date. Around 55 countries are now participating in the OECD INFE International Survey of Adult Financial Literacy, Inclusions and Wellbeing 2026. Over 30 are also considering joining the PISA 2029 financial literacy assessment. This momentum is very encouraging, and Romania's participation in both surveys is very welcome. I warmly invite all countries not yet committed to consider participating in these important exercises. Ladies and gentlemen, today's symposium provides a valuable opportunity for international dialogue and cooperation among policymakers, practitioners, and experts. I hope the discussions will help advance our shared goal, ensuring that people everywhere have the financial knowledge, skills, and confidence they need to participate fully in economic life and safeguard their financial well-being. I wish you a productive and inspiring event. Thank you very much.
We're approaching the end of the welcoming speeches, so I invite, last but not least, Mrs. Magda Bianco, General Director for Consumer Protection, Financial Education, Banca d'Italia, Chair of OECD International Network on Financial Education. Madam.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's an immense pleasure, but also a great honor to say a few words after so distinguished speakers. There is very little I can add, actually. But first, as OECD INFE chair, and on behalf of all the members, I really have to compliment Mr. Mazaki. Heartfelt thanks to the National Bank of Romania, the Financial Supervisory Authority, the Romanian Association of Banks for hosting this symposium, and the National Museum of Art for having us here in this amazing building in a wonderful city, I must say. Second, I do not have to underline the importance of the topic. Introductory remarks were so clear and so committed, and I think we are really grateful as a network to see such a high-level commitment on a policy, an education policy, whose importance we all share within our network on financial education, but which is sometimes hard to be fully recognized at such a high level. So I think really Romania is leading under this respect. And finally, on today's symposium on financial literacy to support security, independence, and inclusion. Well, we live, as we heard this morning, in a very uncertain time. In the financial sector specifically, we see lots of risks, and we heard about many risks, frauds first, but there are also many opportunities. Well, one of the issues that we have is that they are really unevenly distributed. They affect various groups in very different ways. Of course, we would all like to have, we all look for silver bullets, helping us to exploit opportunities and address risks. Well, there are none, but there are policies that may help. Policies that need solid, hard work and implementation with a long-term vision. We certainly need dedicated and very focused financial consumer protection, we heard about it, but we know it's not sufficient by itself. Financial education may serve as both a shield against risks and a key to unlocking opportunities, complementing, of course, consumer protection. Again, also financial literacy, financial education is not a silver bullet, but we do have solid evidence that it may contribute to enhancing individual financial well-being in many dimensions. Security, independence, quality inclusion, especially for vulnerables, are some of these. As we discussed yesterday in our technical committee, it needs a lot of work to produce results, to ensure actually security, independence, and inclusion. We need data, analysis, we need a definition of targets, we need solid methodologies, we need evaluation. I think today each of the panels will address some of these challenges and how they may be addressed. We might not uncover solutions for every issue, but I'm sure we will come out of this symposium with ideas on how to make opportunities more evenly distributed and some risks better addressed. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much for all the speakers for this introductory session. They established an important framework for the next discussions. The first panel starts now, and I invite Miles Larby to take the floor. He's the moderator of the first panel. Thank you very much, everybody. I wish you very good discussions for today, and of course, a very good day. Thank you.
I know everyone wants to take a moment to stretch their legs, but maybe we should make a start.
I cannot hear you.
Is this microphone working? Can you hear me? Yeah, I think so. Okay, great. I think some people are just coming back into the room.
We can't hear you.
What else to do?
I think it's the way that the mic.
You can't hear me at all?
Maybe they can hear you, but we can't really hear you. Okay.
I think I'll use this. Okay, well, I think we should probably get started. This is the first panel session of today's symposium. Although it's a very hard act to follow, so many distinguished speeches from esteemed colleagues in the Romanian authorities, which has been absolutely fantastic and very inspiring, and I think setting a terrific scene for the day. My name is Miles Larby, and I'm the head of the Financial Consumer Protection, Education and Inclusion Unit at the OECD. And it's my pleasure to be moderating this first panel of today's symposium. And I should, of course, begin by adding my thanks on behalf of the OECD to the National Bank of Romania, the Financial Supervisory Authority, and the Romanian Association of Banks for graciously hosting us for this symposium and also the meeting, and gracious hospitality yesterday, and of course to the National Museum of Art for having us in this absolutely beautiful, beautiful room. This session, this first panel, is going to pick up on the topic of empowering consumers against financial scams and frauds. I have a very short presentation that I'll start with. I'll keep it quite short, although I know it will be available to everyone on the website, just in the interest of time, just to set some context for the panel discussion. Financial scams and frauds is a trend, is an issue that has always been with us, I suppose, but in recent years is a trend that we have seen significantly increasing, both in terms of the severity, the sophistication and the incidence of financial scams and frauds. So at the OECD, obviously in conjunction with the INFE and also our Working Party on Financial Consumer Protection, this is an issue that we've been looking at more closely to try and get some data to inform policy approaches, both in terms of financial literacy, financial consumer protection, and more broadly, in terms of how to tackle this issue of financial scams and frauds, how to empower and protect consumers. So just very briefly, the focus, the importance of addressing financial scams and frauds is directly mentioned in the International Standard for Financial Consumer Protection, which is the G20 OECD Principles on Financial Consumer Protection. You can see on this slide the infographic that summarizes the financial consumer protection principles, specifically mentions, it specifically highlights the importance of protecting consumers' assets from frauds, scams, and misuse. And this was something that was particularly highlighted in the review of the principles that we undertook in 2022. As the Deputy Secretary General mentioned in his opening remarks, at the OECD, we're committed to collecting data and evidence to understand problems and inform policy solutions. We have the data from the Adult Financial Literacy Survey that tells us that fully 15% of consumers say that they have fallen victim to a financial scam or fraud. And I think we all know in this area it's notorious for underreporting, so I think we can assume that's very much the minimum level. And that of the people who have fallen victim to scams and frauds, 2/3 do not reach the minimum level of financial literacy. We also have collected some data in a report called the Consumer Finance Risk Monitor, which was published in March. And this report aggregates insights and data from about 70 jurisdictions who provided us with data and information about the sort of consumer risks and trends in their jurisdiction. And 85% of the responding jurisdictions told us that financial scams and frauds was the top risk facing consumers. You can see on this slide that there are obviously different estimates and it's impossible to have an exact figure, but recent estimates suggest that consumers lost over $400 billion to scams and frauds in the year 2025. Going further a bit into the data, what we have found, what jurisdictions tell us, is that this issue, the risk of scams and frauds, has increased in 70% of jurisdictions over the year 2024 to 2025. And we've also gathered some data to try and understand what are the most significant types of scams and frauds affecting consumers, both in terms of the number of people affected and by the amount of money that has been lost. You can see actually the top scam that, both in terms of people affected and financial loss, are scams relating to phishing, vishing or smishing. Smishing is a phishing scam perpetrated through SMS. And I'm sure everybody in this room, if you haven't yourself received some kind of phishing attempt, you certainly know someone who has. They are absolutely ubiquitous these days. And you can see the other types of frauds and scams listed on the slide. At the OECD, working with the delegates of the INFE, all of the members, as well as the members of the Working Party on Financial Consumer Protection, we're actually undertaking a dedicated project on how to better protect consumers from frauds and scams. The objectives of this project are to better understand the drivers of the increased incidence and severity, to articulate a typology which can be used by countries. So a typology is a way of measuring and classifying the different types of frauds and scams that are operating in a jurisdiction. And lastly, to analyze financial consumer protection and financial education approaches in order to identify effective solutions or approaches that people are deploying. So this report, this work that we're doing, is based on over 100 responses from government ministries and financial regulators, including the authorities from Romania, many members of FinConnect, of INFE, OECD, G20 and so on provided us with lots of really useful data. The report will be published in June. The rest of the slides really give a sort of a sneak peek, if you like, at the findings from the report. I'm not going to go through all of them in detail, just in the interest of time, but I might just mention a couple. In terms of the objectives of the report, one of them is to put forward a typology that countries can adopt and use in order to measure, as I said, and classify the incidence of frauds and scams. And why is this important? This is essential, actually, because if you are not capturing, recording and measuring what's happening, it's going to be very, very difficult to target effectively what's actually happening on the ground. So some countries already have a typology, but half of those who responded to this questionnaire do not have a typology. So we're really hoping that we will be able to pull together from all of the best practices and come up with a typology that countries can then deploy and use at the national level to help them to classify and understand what's happening in this area. I mentioned effective approaches. So these are the effective approaches that we have been distilling from the data and information that we've received. You can see approaches relating to financial consumer protection. In terms of financial education, of course, consumer awareness campaigns and the key warning signs, raising digital literacy and digital capabilities. This is obviously fundamental. This is all unpacked in more detail in the report. And very importantly, informing consumers, or creating and then informing consumers about reporting channels, ideally one reporting channel in a jurisdiction. So how, if a consumer has become a victim to a scam or fraud, do they know where to report it? Is it easy to do so? Because all of this, as I say, makes it much easier to collect data, to understand the scope of the problem, and then to effectively address it. And another really effective approach that has come through the findings is the importance of collaboration across stakeholders. Financial education, practitioners and authorities, financial consumer protection agencies can't solve the issue of frauds and scams by themselves. It's really important to collaborate with other players in the ecosystem. So whether that's other government departments, other types of regulatory bodies or oversight authorities in telecommunications, in utilities, with civil society, and of course with the financial services industry. This collaboration, I think, is really key in terms of consistent messaging that the public then receive about what the issues are and what they can do to protect themselves. And as I said, the report also puts forward a number of policy recommendations, or it will do when it's launched in June. The report is currently out for consultation with all members of the INFE and other stakeholders, and we look forward to receiving any further feedback, as I say, with a view to publishing the report in June. Now, thank you very much for your attention to that. We'll now get into the panel discussion. Hopefully that's helped to set the scene. Okay, let's get on with the panel discussion. I'm absolutely delighted to have such esteemed panelists here to join me in this discussion. Starting on my left, I have Gabriela Fulcult, the Executive Director of the Romanian Association of Banks. Then Claudio Negrea, the Director of Financial Market Infrastructures and Payment Oversight Department at the National Bank of Romania. Then we have Victoria Dicpinigaitiene, sorry if I mangled the name, Head of Financial Literacy at Lietuvos Bankas in Lithuania. Then Lyndall Clark, Head of Department of Consumer Education at the Financial Sector Conduct Authority of South Africa. And last but not least, Stefan Humer, the Head of Financial Literacy at the Austrian Central Bank. So let's begin. I'd like to start by inviting each of the panelists to briefly introduce themselves and their organization and give us a sense of the most common trends and challenges relating to frauds and scams in their jurisdiction. And Claudia, we're going to start with you, please.
Thank you very much. Distinguished guests, welcome to Romania. Bine ați venit. It's an honor for us to have you here. For us as a central banker, it's very important to maintain confidence in our national currency and to maintain financial stability. All we're talking about financial scams and people lose their money. So for us, it's very important to maintain the financial system that we have in our country. All the panelists that talk about the financial literacy. Also, we have a lot of programs for financial literacy, but unfortunately, the level of digital skills, because the financial literacy should be put in the same place with the digital skills in the financial sector. All the services right now in Romania are accesses via online banking. So we are fully digitalized. We have good internet coverage, good usage of mobile and smartphones. We have addressed all kinds of services via our mobile apps, but we don't know how to protect against the scams. All the typologies that are put in the OECD report are the same in our country, but I want to highlight two of the latest trends in Romania. One of them is related to crypto scams, which referring to the consumer that is informed that somebody took a credit in his name and he's advised to take another line of credit on his maximum amount and withdraw all the money via ATM machines or via cash decks on credit institution and put them into a crypto ATM. Once the money are put in the crypto ATM, it's almost impossible to take a step for the money that are stealed. And the other one is a treasury recovery scam, which is referring to somebody tell to Romanian consumer that they have to take some money from the states because they exceed this amount of sum for their taxes. And everybody is informed that they have to give the money to different accounts, and after that they will bring the money from our treasury deposits. Unfortunately, this is a scam. The treasury didn't call you to give the money back, and people believe that this is the truth. For us, for the central bank, it's not only on financial literacy. For us, it's directly involved with our banking association and our payment security service providers. to take different measures. So we try to build on our national level a scoring risk for all transactions on retail payments. This is an ongoing process. We work with our operator of retail payment system, with banking association, with all the commercial bank and the private-owned company, and we are now in the phases of testing this risk model for all the transactions. Because in our country we have instant payment system, we have different possibility to make payments, like via your mobile phone, via QR code. So we have to be prepared to tackle with the fraudsters. So for us, this application we have in mind to launch in the production phase probably around Q3 on 2026, and will help us to evaluate the suspicion transaction in real time, to isolate the mule accounts, and to have intensive proactive measures for fraudulent funds that are retrieved from our regulated system. So that is my intervention for the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia. And Gabriela.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the commercial banking community, welcome to Romania. Allow me to say you, welcome to Romania. For one of you, maybe it's the first time. But first of all, I want to thank to the organizers for allowing me to be part of this highly valued event. Our main focus for all of us is to increase digital and financial education. In our case, Romanian Association of Banks, because I'm representing Romanian Association of Banks, digital and financial education is the first pillar of 5 pillars. We understood at the level of banking community that financial education is the key to individual and national prosperity. We wish every politician, decision makers, or ordinary citizen to understand that financial education is the key to prosperity. Indeed, I must underline that is not the single factor. There are social factors and economic context, as you see is happening now in Romania. In terms of GDP per capita, Romania achieved 78% from the European Union average and is increasing. This is the first pillar we sustain, financial education, and in our case, not the second, the main important it has is credit, because financial intermediation in Romania is 24%. It decreased from 40% in 2010 after the global crisis. But we have to increase financial intermediation, and I think it's a chance to enhance the economic development of the Romania through financial education and also to credit. We should see the positive part of it. The positive part is the fact that we have a great potential to enhance the economy through credit, and at the same time we have low risk in case of economic global crisis. Now I am talking about our main issue regarding digital education. We focused starting 2021 mainly on digital education in the Romanian Association of Banks. Why? Digitalization increased very fast, also the risk. So we have to provide to our customers information, but not quite information. We need to change behaviors. If one customer knows how to calculate the compound interest, it's fine. But if he doesn't know that he must not pay when he is connected to a public Wi-Fi, it will affect him directly. So we have to do a lot more on this issue. I will provide you a lot of information about this. The main typologies of frauds in Romania, I will mention phishing, spoofing, impersonating, and all of the types here, and also investment frauds. In terms of challenges for the Romanian, not necessarily for the Romanian Banking Association, I think I will mention the lack of the legislative legal framework. The lack of, because we don't have a legal framework in order to block the amounts from beneficiaries' bank if we have suspicion there is a fraud. In the same time, I will talk about the elephant from the hall, lack of public interest for financial and digital education. It's not they don't want, it seems to them that is not quite immediately relevant. Maybe they consider it's too complicated. Maybe they are not interested at all. So we have to face this problem also. And the third, and this is a problem for all of us worldwide, we have to increase the responsibility of the social media platforms. If we don't, we'll face the same problem in 10 years from now. I will stop here for the moment.
Thank you, Gabriela. I think you and Claudio have given us a very good overview of the challenges that you're facing here in Romania. So let's move to Lithuania now. Victoria, please give us an overview.
Thank you, Miles. Dear colleagues, let me also join others in thanking you for the invitation. It's truly a pleasure to be here among such distinguished experts. And I'm thinking my surname in my language means big money, so I'm kind of in the right area of work because I've been leading the Financial Literacy Center at the Bank of Lithuania for nearly 4 years. And it's worth noting that scams and fraud have been one of the most important topics through this period. More broadly, the Bank of Lithuania, the prevention of scams and fraud is a strategic priority. And alongside a wide range of financial literacy initiatives, we also contribute to coordinating the national strategy for fraud prevention and propose regulatory improvements to better protect consumers. So quite a lot is happening in Lithuania in this area, but as Miles suggested, let me start briefly touching on the typologies and some key trends. So firstly, let me illustrate with a few key figures. In Lithuania, consumer losses grew rapidly, from about 5 million euros in 2020 to 10 million euros in 2021, reaching around 20 million euros last year. So recently the situation stabilized, with losses in 2025 remaining similar to 2024, but still at high level for such country as Lithuania. At the same time, as fraud volumes have increased, prevention efforts have also scaled up significantly. Banks stopped about 15 million euros in 2024 and nearly 40 million euros in 2025, which is about 60% of all attempted scams. And now turning to typologies, so in Lithuania we mainly classify fraud based on the type of scheme used by scammers, such as romance scams, investment scams, and others. And while we use another typologies, this scheme-based dimension is the most commonly used in our communication. So, according to the latest analysis of the Center of Excellence in Anti-Money Laundering, phishing has become the dominant and fastest growing type of fraud in Lithuania in 2025, both by total losses and the number of cases. And while it was already the most common by volume, in previous years, we now see a sharp increase in its financial impact as well. Telephone and investment scams also remain significant, involving direct interaction with victims and strong psychological manipulation. Also worth mentioning that despite the growing of AI, Russian remains the primary language used by scammers in Lithuania. Telephone scams using AI may start in Lithuanian, but quickly switch to Russian, with explanations that make the interaction seem legitimate. So it's a big problem, especially for older people who speak Russian very well. And I would also like to briefly share some preliminary insights from the quantitative research conducted as a part of project funded by European Union under the Technical Support Instrument, together with OECD, the Bank of Latvia, and the European Commission. So the consumer's perspective, one of the most commonly reported fraud schemes was shopping scams. An interesting finding that many victims do not report that incidents to the authorities for various reasons. They do not believe reporting would make any difference, or they feel ashamed, or they simply don't know where to report. So, of course, in most cases, the amounts are small and people not want to spend time to reporting it. And another important aspect is that higher levels of digital activity in Lithuania are associated with greater likelihood of exposure to fraud, likely due to increased online presence. And this is not surprising, as Lithuania is among the leading countries in Europe in terms of instant payments. While this brings clear benefits, it also increases exposure to fraud risks, something clearly reflected in the data. At the same time, we observe a negative correlation between digital financial literacy and victimization, meaning that more financially literate individuals tend to be more resilient. So all in all, fraud is becoming more personalized, more sophisticated, and we need to build not just awareness, but also build the resilience. So I'll stop here and with a short overview of the station.
Wonderful. Thank you, Victoria, for that overview of the situation in Lithuania. And it sounds like what you're experiencing there is very similar to the global picture, actually, that I was presenting in the OECD report. Now we're going to move to Lyndall to get the picture from South Africa. I think you have a slide.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Miles, and good morning, everyone. So thanks again to the organizers for also inviting me to speak here today, and also for the lovely dinner last night. I'm sure I'm not the only one that needs to be hydrated this morning. I must say, Gabriela, it's my first time in Romania, but I've been traveling for the past week, and I can assure you and Claudio that the hospitality received from the organizers extends to the rest of the people in Romania. So it's just a few slides from South Africa, and online scams and online harm has become quite risky for South Africans. You'll see from the slides nearly 7 out of 10 South Africans have been hit by digital fraud, especially from a banking perspective. And this has obviously led to great financial losses, about 1.9 billion rand, which translates to just under 100 million euros. And you'll see from a global perspective, South Africa is one of the highest countries in terms of targeting by scamsters. But this has also led to the actual fraud being a barrier to digital adoption, especially when it comes to payments. So we have I'll speak about this a bit later, we have huge campaigns that drives digital payment and the risks attached to it. But the leading scams in the country is obviously still phishing. I think everybody else, phishing is a problem. We've got romantic scams, and I think that amount or that stat that's on the slide is a bit overrated there, so exaggerated. It's about 20% year on year since 2020, between 2020 and 2025. And the other emerging scam most recently is where AI has actually helped the scamsters to impersonate financial services providers' websites. So what's happening is that if you want to invest, when you do invest, you're not investing with the financial services provider, you're actually investing in a scam that is being perpetrated. And then the second slide, I just wanted to quickly give you some context in terms of the second slide. So we've got a lot of challenges in South Africa, and I think most of those that have been mentioned. But I want to highlight the socioeconomic challenges that we have. We've got about a 32% unemployment rate. I'll continue speaking. We've got about a 32% unemployment rate, and what normally happens is people fall for get-rich-quick schemes. So the economic vulnerability is being exploited. We've got...
Would you go forward to the next slide, Lyndall? Can we just advance the slide by one?
So while we're advancing to the next slide, it's okay. So I spoke about the unemployment, but we've also got 12 million South Africans using credit card facilities for day-to-day living, which means they buy their food on credit, which leads to identity fraud. And this is a huge problem. But I think the most significant challenge that we have, and if the slide comes up eventually, you'll see that 40% of South Africans they're not sure on how to detect a fraud or a scam. They don't know when it is actually a scam. And then secondly, 58% of South Africans don't actually know what to do and how to protect themselves against scams. So the gap between awareness and your capability of actually dealing with a scam is quite huge. And I think for us, this is where financial education plays a huge role in actually creating that awareness and making people capable of identifying the scam, but then also how do I deal with it once I realize that I'm being scammed, or even, what's my recourse? And most of the time we know with scams, there is no recourse. There's no way of getting the money back. Thanks, that's it from my side for now.
Thank you, Lindor, and thank you for advancing the slide there. Stefan, we're going to come to you now to hear a little bit about the Austrian experience.
Thank you, Miles. I also want to echo the thanks for the organizers for having me. It's really an honor to speak to you today. And I also want to thank the Romanian authorities for the amazing hospitality so far. You asked me to introduce myself briefly. I'm heading the financial literacy unit at the Austrian Central Bank, where I have the pleasure to work with 15 wonderful people, and we are trying to do the best we can to help Austrian citizens to develop a healthy and confident relationship with money. And it's also an honor to serve as a co-lead in the scientific committee of the Austrian National Strategy, as a co-lead in the OECD INFE expert group on measurement, evaluation, and impact, and also as a co-lead of the Eurosystem Financial Literacy Network. In terms of scams, I think scams is really where low financial literacy turns into real harm. And I'm reminded of the quote of that Bianca shared with us yesterday by the opening remark of the youth wife representative. And I think he said, financial literacy is actually self-defense. And I think when we talk about scams, it's so true. But this real harm also can turn into less trust in the financial system as a whole. So this is why we as a central bank care very deeply about building capacities for consumers to really protect themselves against scams. In terms of top 4 scam schemes in Austria, I can tell you about the fake police scheme, where a policy officer might ring your phone or even knock your door, and he tries to convince you that your savings are at risk. And the best you can do is to hand over your savings to him or her, that he or her will then take care of it. But of course, you won't see your money anyway soon, or even anywhere. Second one is trading and investment fraud. So via fake platforms, and here we see that in this area we report the biggest losses by case. Another important scheme is the so-called grandchild trick, where you may receive a message via WhatsApp, "Hey granny, I'm abroad, I've lost my phone, I have had to buy a new phone there, therefore I'm writing from a new number, I was running out of money, can you send me some money?" And yeah, the fourth one is love scams, where people try to build fake online relationships over weeks or months, and only then urgent requests for money drop in. And when you think about it, what is the common theme among these four types of scams, it's really like building trust and then abusing it. So scammers really, they succeed because they're able to offer exactly, at least they pretend, to offer exactly what matters most to the people, or they are even able to address hidden desires. I think this makes it even harder to prevent ourselves against these kinds of scams. And when we look at the trends, we see clearly that the volume is rising every year. So when we look at internet-related crimes, by a year-by-year case, over the last 10 years, the number increased by 5-fold. And when we look into the subcategory of cybercrime, over the last 10 years, it increased in Austria by 10-fold. But even more channels are shifting. We observe that from phone, scams are traveling more to the messages, from email to social media. And we also see the scripts, so the tactics of the scammers, evolve faster than our statistics to count them. So totals are rising, but unfortunately we also have to acknowledge a heavy underreporting, especially among the older victims. And another issue is that data is still fragmented across police authorities, banks, public authorities, and supervisors. So building better data and addressing these challenges with educational measures should be a major concern, but I'm pretty sure that Austria is no exception in this case.
Great, thank you, Stefan. I think all of you have really painted the picture there of how frauds and scams prey on people's vulnerabilities and lack of financial literacy, and that topic of the erosion of trust in the financial system as a whole, I think, is incredibly important and a real risk. And you've all, of course, called out the importance of financial education, financial literacy as part of the fight against frauds and scams. So I want to drill into that a bit further with the next question and actually get into some of the detail of the types of financial education that you undertake. And Claudia, I'd like to come back to you first again, please, to give us an idea of how do you undertake financial education or consumer awareness in Romania?
Yeah, thank you very much. At National Bank of Romania, we believe that the informed public is the first line of defense against fraudsters. For us, we have two directions when we intervene. First one is by our programs from financial education for students, entrepreneurs, and so on, via our Department of Financial Education and Museum, and our colleagues from branches. We have 18 regional branches and agencies that cover almost all the country, and we have a strong partnership with Financial Minister of Education, and we have a lot of trainings with the pupils. And on the other one, we are working with the banking community to put in their mobile apps some short videos regarding how to protect from the new trend in scams and how to use their mobile apps in a secure manner. For us, I think this partnership help us to send the message more clear to Romanian consumers. And on the back, my department also dealing with the problems regarding the real-time monitoring tools. So we issue a lot of recommendations from banking sectors. I summarize some of them. Location monitoring for banks will help very much to address the fraudulent type of transaction. If he is staying on Bucharest and somebody use their credentials to make payment in other jurisdiction, so they have all the information to block the suspect transaction. The other one is referring to remote access block. If you're having on your mobile or on your desktop a remote access application that are running at the same time with your banking app, the banking services is unavailable for you, also to protect the Romanian consumer from fraudsters. And the other one is related to strong customer authentication in all the banking processes and all accessing the financial services from Romanian consumers. This joint action with the MBR, Financial Supervisory Authority, the Romanian Police, the National Cybersecurity Directorate, and the banking sector help us to significantly increase the volume of fraudulent frauds and successfully blocked and recover some of them.
Thank you.
And also, we have a lot of information on our website, the website Siguranța Online, which is cover a lot of information, not only Romanian-specific one, also EBA guidelines we publish. So we try to give to Romanian consumers a lot of useful information. A lot of programs are dealing with our colleagues, and also Gabriela will enter into deep dive for this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Claudio. And there you've obviously underscored that point about collaboration with other stakeholders, which is incredibly important. And I think that does take us nicely back to you, Gabriela, in terms of the role of banks in Romania to warn consumers about specific scams.
Alo? Mama, mă auzi? Sunt la Paris la concert. Am nevoie de 10.000 de euro. Cum transfer? Băi, chiar mi se mai pare amuzant, serios. Doamnă, vă rog să stați liniștită. Andra e ok, dar dumneavoastră puteți să fiți o victimă a excrocerii. Vă recomand să intrați pe siguranțaonline.ro ca să vedeți testimoniale cu cele mai frecvente tehnici, metode de excrocherii și ca să aflați cum vă puteți proteja de ele.
This is a flavor of our moment from Romania's Got Talent. Has been broadcasted 2 weeks ago at ProTV. The artist Andra, one of the best voices from Romania, is part of this awareness moment. We try to explain to our customers, to the citizens, about the risks using AI. We use AI, but don't forget about the risk. This is just a part of our campaign, Siguranța Online, Online Safety, United Against Frauds. We started this campaign in 2021. We, the Romanian Association of Banks, together with the Romanian Police and the National Directorate for Cybersecurity, MasterCard joined this year to the campaign. We consider this campaign is the main one in Romania. We have a platform called siguranțaonline.ro, Online Safety. And I must underline that us, the Romanian banking system, we are not focused just on education. We focus on operational measures and on legislative area in order to have better protection for the citizen. But on this issue, on awareness, I must say banks have their own programs. This program, Siguranța Online, is part of the campaign financed by the banks, and also starting this year, MasterCard. But has individual programs in order to raise the awareness to mitigate the risk of fraud. And about their messages, they are constantly conducting information campaign, but also send alerts to the customers via internet, via mobile, via SMS, via email. But I have a question for you. How many of you skip that information? How many of the citizens worldwide skip that information? Maybe someday we'll find out through a survey. But I think it's important to explain to them it's not an information. It's more than an information. We need to change behavior of our customers. If we don't succeed on this area, they will pay. And according to the new European regulation, maybe the banks will pay. Everyone should be careful of this, because we cannot solve the problems of lack of education with a regulation. We can solve this problem through education. Sometimes banks send messages, warning messages. If you are in a call, and you want to make a payment, the Romanian banks send you a message. Why? Because the fraudsters try to talk to you tens of minutes or hours. They manipulate you to don't have time to take the second opinion on this. We have mechanisms in place in order to stop the transaction. The banks have it, and as my colleague Claudia Negra underlined, this year we'll have Detect, that anti-fraud national scheme. We'll see there all the transactions from all the banks in Romania, because us, the Romanian Association of Banks, we're representing the entire banking market. There, on Detect, we'll see if your transaction has low risk, medium risk, or high risk. And I, as a banker officer, I'll decide if I'll stop, if I block the amount of that transaction. If it will have high risk, be sure the bank will stop it. But in the same time, I might say we need to push more on education, and we will not have results in 5 years. We'll have results maybe in 20 years. So our proposals is very clear. In Romania, we have financial education like a mandatory discipline. We should also have digital education at a global level.
Thank you, Gabriela, and thank you for sharing that video with us, which I think is a perfectly good example of trying to get messages to people in a way that's very targeted, very accessible, in a way that people are likely to engage, picking up on your earlier point about the interest level in financial education. Okay, Victoria, can I come back to you, please, to tell us a bit about what you do in Lithuania, with perhaps an example of an effective awareness campaign that you've run there.
Thank you, Miles. In Lithuania, we use few different approaches and tools to both warn people and help them build awareness and skills in practice. And of course, information campaigns are one of these approaches. And in recent years, several large-scale national campaigns have focused on raising awareness. And for example, in 2023, the Bank of Lithuania launched an information campaign, Be Alert, Scammers Don't Take Vacations, based on the insights that people lower their guard during holidays. Over time, we also strengthen collaboration across institutions. So the latest campaign, encouraging people to simply just hang up the phone, is the strongest example of this direction. It brings together key institutions such as Bank of Lithuania, the association, the Lithuanian Banking Association, the police, and the national broadcaster, allowing one clear message to be consistently communicated across channels. It goes also beyond a slogan by including 4 concrete videos with scam scenarios, as in Romania, showing how financially literate person should behave in such situations. Running since the end of last year, it already shows strong reach and engagement. So for a small country like Lithuania, over 11 million impressions across Lithuania was reached. And this is the direction we are moving towards. We're trying to have not to have more separate campaigns, but more coordination and joint effort. However, campaigns are not enough, so continuous communications is equally important. And one particularly effective tool in Lithuania is quizzes. So we developed them that people can test their knowledge and learn in a practical way. So education is another pillar. Over the past years, dozens of lectures, both online and in person, have been delivered to adults and students. And the employees of the Bank of Lithuania alone have directly reached around 35,000 people. And these sessions focus not on knowledge, but also on real-life scenarios and that people could actively engage and try decision-making. And finally, one of the most innovative approaches we have taken is gamification. So we developed a board game, Fraudster Web, specially designed to introduce people with different typologies, and it includes more than 50 real-life scenarios and requires players to work together to stop fraudsters. It's a strategic, cooperative type game, and this game has been recognized as the best Lithuanian game of 2023 and is now used in schools, universities, and libraries. And what matters, that is not just the tools, but the approach, learning by doing and experiencing real-life scenarios in safe environment. And across all tools, we focus on practical examples. So to sum up, Lithuania's approach combines awareness, communication, education, innovative tools, but the main idea is that clear shift from just to be careful, from helping people to build and act under pressure. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria, and I really appreciate that focus on actions that people should take or behaviours. And I love that message about the one clear message, the coordination with the broadcaster as well. Lyndwall, perhaps we can come to you next. Can you perhaps tell us about a financial education initiative against frauds and scams in South Africa and how you track progress amongst those who have attended activities to raise awareness?
Thanks, Miles. And I just realized I didn't properly introduce myself earlier on. So I work for the Financial Sector Conduct Authority, which is one of the peaks of the Twin Peaks system in South Africa. And the FSCA has got the mandate for financial education. And having the mandate means that we need to have a plan. And every year we put out a financial education plan. And this plan includes all activities. And this year, particularly, we've decided to take scams and frauds across all the activities. So the campaigns ranges from in-person and social media, but it's also theme-based, which means it's debt management, it is on insurance, handling digital payments, but then it's also vulnerable group-based in terms of women, youth, and elderly people as well. So each month, for instance, we might have, in June, there's Youth Month, in August, there's Women's Month, and then thematic towards the end of the year, we have the Spending Patterns campaign. So for each one of these campaigns, there is a scams and a frauds, especially from a social media perspective. And we've actually have a specific one. We had one with the World Investor Week that our OSCO is running ran last year, where we actually had a specific campaign on relationship scams. It's also called pig butchering. If you read it up, you'll see what it actually means. And we had quite a number of success because we noticed that the more you create awareness, the more people report it. And I think the message came from one of the other speakers as well. In terms of the actual projects that we have for youth especially, we have the a national financial literacy speech competition where there's 3 topics, but underlying in that topics, the learners need to speak about how to combat fraud or how to identify fraud within the activities that they do. We've also moved into early childhood development recently, where grade Rs, the 6-year-olds, have also started giving us speeches. And even within that sector, we've asked the teachers to talk about what are the risks when you start spending money. And then finally, we're looking at in-person. We've got a project with tertiary education students. And here, Miles, you asked, how do we actually track? Now from a social media perspective, although you have these Google Analytics and they tell you how many impressions, etc., but you never know exactly what's the impact that you've made when you look at those analytics. So we use it as impressions, and if you go onto our website, you can see all the statistics that are there. But what's also been working recently is with our in-person projects, especially with the tertiary education. This year, or last financial year, we reached about 12 universities in South Africa and over 8,000 students, that we've instituted a tracking survey, a study, where over 3 to 6 months, we actually engaged a service provider, an independent service provider, to track these learners, and they obviously have to agree, and they get incentives. So they get a little bit of payment as a student to take part in the survey over the 6 months. And it's actually showed, one, knowledge retention. Do you still remember what we spoke about at the workshop? But the second part is the behavioral part. Has it made you more aware of your surroundings when you actually interact with financial services providers? And especially students, and I don't know about your countries, but in South Africa, students, they invest. They invest in Forex, they invest in Bitcoin, they take huge, huge risks. And they don't care whether they lose the money because some of them use their bursary money to actually invest the money. So if they win big. If they lose, it's not their money that they're losing. So it's a big challenge, but we've learned from this that most of the students have changed their behavior. And they've actually realized that before I go online, I need to verify the site. And I think that's a big plus for us in terms of tracking what has happened. Of course, tracking activities or tracking participants in your activities is also very expensive. So from a funding point of view, if you do a tracking survey with people, with in-person people, you need to know that you have to have a service provider that is willing to walk the distance, phone up and go to participants and actually get the data back from them. So Miles, from our perspective, I think we've got all our projects that's on our financial education plan. It's on our website. You're more than welcome to go and have a look at it. We monitor and evaluate each one of them, and with specific emphasis on was there any behavior change, and especially around scams and frauds. Can more people identify scams now, and how do they react to it if they do get scammed? Thanks.
Thank you, Lindor. And yeah, that point about evaluation is, of course, crucial. And I mean, congratulations on being able to achieve that students taking that one action, because I mean, even just that one action is obviously helping to protect them significantly when going online. And then that brings us to Stefan again, please. Stefan, thinking from your perspective, what particular skills or behaviors do you think consumers should have, need to have, to detect and protect themselves from scams and frauds? And obviously, with reference to an example from a campaign you're running in Austria would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Miles. So I think it's really crucial to really understand that scammers don't directly attack your wallets, they don't directly attack your phones. They really attack us as humans. They attack our trust in institutions, they attack our trust in the payment system, and they attack our trust in the relationship with other humans. So it's really important to convey the message that their goal is to gain the trust and then abuse it by offering what matters most to people, being it securing your savings, helping your grandchild, finding love, or doing the right thing. And I think really love scams are the clearest case to make this point. Really, weeks and even months might pass by of relationship building without even asking for €1. And then they have already built the trust, which they then leverage to scam people. So we don't teach only red flags, we teach people how to pause, how to take a break, how to step back and to sense something is off, out of the regularly, and to know what to do. So what have we done? We joined forces with the police authorities in Austria, and we developed a 2-day workshop program. On the first day, we are teaching students, together with police officers, about the mechanisms of these 4 most important fraud schemes. And we are training the students to be multipliers. Because on the second day, together with the students, we visit, and again with the police officers, we visit senior residents. And then on the second day, the students teach the seniors again on these 4 fraud schemes about the mechanisms and how they can protect themselves. And in our theory of change, we also assume that the students don't only act as a multiplier on the second day in the senior residence, but we also hope that they carry the message on in their own families, to their parents, to their own grandparents. And yeah, it's also great to have like this great collaboration with the police authorities. In Austria, at every police station, there is a designated community policing officer. They are called security coordinator, and they are used to go to kindergartens, schools, senior residences, to really engage with people about their fears, but also to help in terms of capacity building. So this is really an amazing opportunity for us to scale this program to whole Austria. In terms of the skills we built, I see two buckets. The first bucket is concerning prevention. So noticing in time that it really literally can happen to everyone. And if it can happen to everyone, you really have to understand it can only also happen to me. So really getting this message across. And we're teaching them to spot all the signals, the time pressure, the secrecy, the emotion, and even that unusual channels are used. And as I was referring before already, we teach them to take a pause and really check before they act. And the second bucket is the reaction. What to do when something bad happened. So here we convey the message, it's really important to stay calm, to know who to call, the police, your bank, consumer protection authorities, and most importantly, to talk about it. Being ashamed is actually helping scammers to find the next victim. And why do we think this format works so successfully? First of all, we have like this amazing cross-generational learning experience. So really generations learn from each other. The students bring the digital fluency and the seniors bring a healthy skepticism. And also the police presence makes for both the students but the seniors feel the risk more real, and also they bring real cases to the table. And in these two-day workshops, it's also practice. It's not only theory. It's not just information. And yeah, trust itself is the topic, not a side note. And yeah, this program fits nicely in the policing strategy of Austria as a whole, because the Austrian police authorities noticed that even though overall crime rates go down, so the rate of murders go down, the subjective feeling of the Austrian population is not reflecting that objective increase in security. And the police really reacted by inaugurating this community policing initiative, and they have the motto, watch out, be careful, not only about yourself, but also your surroundings, talk, and act accordingly, because security is really a shared task for the whole society. Thanks.
Brilliant, thank you, Stefan. Look, that brings us exactly to 12:30, which is the time for the lunch break. This is such a huge topic. I know we could discuss it a lot more, and I'm sure people have got questions. I'm sure all of our panelists will be happy to discuss over the lunch break if you want to know any more about what they've been showcasing today. Don't worry, the INFE will be doing further work on this topic. It's such a core topic through at least some workshops. There's also, as I say, the report, and I know it will sort of be a topic of discussion at future INFE meetings. So I think what we've heard from our panelists are, of course, underscoring how serious this issue is and how corrosive it is in terms of trust in the financial system and more broadly, and how vital financial literacy is as part of the overall fight against frauds and scams. Of course, financial literacy isn't going to be the silver bullet, but it is a very important part of the picture to equip consumers with the skills that they need to detect and protect themselves from scams and frauds. I think some of the messages coming through clearly underscore the importance of coordination with other stakeholders to have consistent and clear messaging and bringing that messaging to where people are, where they're most likely to be receptive to it and where it's going to be most relevant. I really appreciate the focus on actions, sometimes very simple actions that people can adopt if they think that they're receiving a scam or a fraud. And of course, something that goes right across all financial education, the importance of evaluation in order to know what is effective and then be able to try and scale that up and bring it to more people. So I really want to thank our panelists. If you can join me in thanking them for sharing their expertise and insight. Yes, I think it's the lunch break now, so thank you very much, everyone.